Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Bellingham City Council committee meetings on August 7th, 2017. We're going to start off with a special meeting of the City Council, 2 closed record hearings. I'll turn over to Mr. Alan Mariner in our attorney's office.
Alan Mariner, Deputy City Attorney, with me this afternoon for the first closed record hearing regarding the Mackenzie Avenue street vacation is Steve Sundin, who's the lead planner on the vacation request, and also one of the petitioners, Doug Robertson, looking very relaxed and happy. This is a closed record hearing to consider a petition to vacate a southerly portion of Mackenzie Avenue located between the center lines of 8th and 9th Streets abutting the tennis club property in Fairhaven. This exhibit is in your packet. You can see that the area to be vacated is 24 feet wide at the west end and at the east end, but a majority of the frontage along the tennis club property is 4 feet wide. The petitioners seek the vacation to increase the redevelopment opportunities for their property. The right-of-way to be vacated is not needed by the city for vehicular or pedestrian circulation or utilities. I should point out that there is a related utility vacation scheduled this evening for a public hearing. And while they're not dependent on each other, they are related because they involve the same area portion of Mackenzie Avenue. Based on a public hearing on April 12th, the hearing examiner found that the vacation met the city and state legal requirements for vacation and recommended approval. That findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendation are in your packet at pages 37 through 51. The complete record created before the hearing examiner was made available to you both in your office and on a link to the city's website. The street vacation policies are on page 54 that you would be applying of your packet. And you should base your decision on the hearing record that was developed before the hearing examiner's report, and the city's street vacation policies. If you approve the petition, you must determine the compensation for the right-of-way to be vacated, the appraised value of the area to be vacated, and it's based on a square footage based on an appraisal, but it's approximately $20,000. In lieu of payment of cash, the city staff is recommending that you require construction of a public sidewalk. That's also shown in your exhibit, in your packet. And that's an example, that's the illustration of the sidewalk, public sidewalk that the petitioner would build. I should point out this site plan is a little different from the one in your packet in that it shows less sidewalk being built on the west side, and that is because the sidewalk going north up along 8th Street has already been constructed by the developer of the project across the street. So this would be the sidewalk. In your packet, there is a engineering cost estimate that the construction of that sidewalk to city standards will be approximately $36,000, and that is what the city staff is recommending as the compensation. It far exceeds the fair market value of the right-of-way being vacated. So at the conclusion of your hearing, you must vote to adopt, modify, or reject the hearing examiner's recommendation. If you vote to adopt the hearing examiner's recommendation and approve the right-of-way vacation, you should decide on compensation for the vacation. We've given you staff's recommendation, and you should consider a motion to bring forward the vacation ordinance in your packet tonight for first and second reading. In the evening, you would report out the results of the hearing occurring today, and if you approve the vacation this afternoon, you would vote first and second on the ordinance. Steve and I are available to answer any questions, and with that, I'll turn it back to Council President.
Thanks, Alan. Council members. Dan?
So I went to the site this weekend to take a look at it and more fully understand what it is that we're talking about here. The current parking stalls go right up to the building, essentially, and what this proposal would do is to create an ADA accessible standard width sidewalk that would go out from the building on the frontage of that facility, the tennis club, is that correct?
That's correct.
Would there be any changes to the parking that's currently there?
I'm going to let Mr. Sundin answer that.
Yeah, the parking would just shift north, and that's why that long stretch along the back and that exhibit that Alan had up originally, that long stretch along McKenzie, that allows the parking to be shifted to the north just a little bit so that that private parking remains on private property against the tennis
So
club.
is it
And
this
that
strip right
accommodates
here?
the- Yeah, that strip right there.
Yeah.
And so that allows parking to be shifted so that the sidewalk can be built to city standard, which includes the ADA requirements.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to ask a question about the original street vacation. Is that permissible in this closed record hearing?
It is if it was an issue that was dealt with before the hearing examiner and the record created before the hearing examiner.
Okay.
And I wasn't at was there any discussion, are you talking about the vacation that occurred?
Well, as I understand
Back
it
in the
now,
1990s?
the parking is considered private parking because several years ago the city vacated land that's now used for parking. It looks like it might be ordinary public parking, but because we vacated, it's private parking. And so this is a continuation of the private parking that was created, I don't know, a decade or so ago.
And all I would say is that once the city vacates right away, it's vacated and it goes back to the abutting property owner. So there's no way for this council today, in considering this request, to undo what was done. I don't know, I thought that it was more than a couple of years ago.
20 years
You
ago.
remember that
Yeah, I think it was 89.
Okay.
that has happened and is done.
April?
I'm going to try this. You can help me out, but I'm going to move that we accept the hearing examiner's ruling of the proposed vacation and release of retainment easements and new replacement easements with a compensation of the construction of a public sidewalk.
Second.
We have a motion before us to accept the hearing examiner's findings of facts, conclusions, law, and recommendation, and the staff's recommendation for compensation, which in this case is a kind of an in lieu of thing. Constructing the sidewalk would be considered a public benefit and payment. I do have another question on one of the criteria, which I'd like to understand a little better. It has to do with our policy that right-of-way adjacent to or leading to any park or open space, view or natural area or any other natural or man-made attraction should not be vacated. We're just talking about a little teeny strip, but in a certain sense it does lead to a park. How is that interpreted? Literally speaking, this does lead to an open space or a park.
Yeah, so our criteria says what it says, and the intent of the criteria is to make sure that we don't give up the opportunity to have access to parks. And so the way we've administered this policy since I've been here, which is a long time, and I've been doing these a long time, is that if access is still available through the right-of-way, whether it's 10 feet, 20, or 56, that still then meets the criteria. We're not eliminating that ability for people to access the trail in this particular case.
But I would also point out that the petitioner is constructing a public standard sidewalk that would be providing access to the sidewalk that's already there abutting 8th Street and the park. So,
Right, that in a certain sense access is increasing or not reducing.
correct.
I guess that's not what the criteria says, and if that's what we mean, I think maybe we should rewrite that one day to say that the reason for not vacating right-of-way, or you wouldn't vacate it if it diminished or impaired public access. If there's a functional criteria, I think it should be stated that way. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes, and tonight, I guess we'll need a motion for the first and second reading on the ordinance.
Correct.
Okay. And the next item?
Another closed record hearing for another street vacation. They seem to be quite frequent these days. This is a closed record hearing to consider a petition to vacate a southerly portion of Bennett Road between Stewart and June Roads, and the westerly portion of June Road between Bennett Road and Northwest Avenue. So you can see the areas too. I'm going to try to give you, the next slide will give you an orientation as to where this is. I know Councilmember Lillquist couldn't find it, but you can see the portion of he's still driving around. Bennett Road, you can see, is the hatch mark portion of Bennett Road, and then the hatch mark portion of June Road. And to orientate to where this is in the city, you can see the yellow is Bennett going north-south, June going east-west. Here is Northwest Avenue. Down here is Pack Highway. Here is the new Costco facility. And right here would be the soon-to-be constructed Mahogany Avenue. And here's our regional stormwater facility. So you can see it's all north in an area to soon be developed as the Aurora Court subdivision. So it's undeveloped area north of Mahogany and Costco. Does that answer your question?
I now know where it is. Thank you.
So Steve, again, was the lead planner on this vacation, and I don't see anybody here for the petitioner. The petitioner intends to do wetland mitigation in these right-of-ways as part of their development of the Aurora Court preliminary plat, which recently was approved by the hearing examiner. The square footage of the new right-of-way to be dedicated for that plat, because they're going to have all these new streets, exceeds the square footage of the right-of-way to be vacated. The right-of-way is not to be vacated is not needed by the city for transportation, pedestrian, or utility purposes. And based on a hearing on June 14th, the hearing examiner found that the vacations of both June and Bennett met the city and state requirements for vacations and recommended approval. Her report is on pages 65 through 77 of your packet. Again, the complete record was made available to you on the city's website and in the council office. The street vacation policies, you have those in your packet for both street vacations today, and you should base your decision on the record created before the hearing examiner's report, and those street vacation policies. If you approve the petition, you have to determine, of course, the compensation for the right-of-way. The right-of-way is to be vacated totally approximately 1.64 acres. The right-of-way, and that would be approximately 71,600 square feet, and are valued at approximately $150,000 based on recent city purchases of similarly zoned land in that area. However, the petitioner, over the course of developing this preliminary plat, which will occur in phases and will occur over quite some time, they are going to be dedicating up to 5.22 acres, which is 3.6 acres more right-of-way than is going to be vacated if council approves the vacation this afternoon. Staff recommends that you require dedication of the 71,600 square feet of right-of-way that as new right-of-way as compensation, so to replace what we're vacating, the same square footage, or the payment of the value of $150,000. And the reason for that, one or the other, is that the petitioner has expressed an interest to start their wetland mitigation on those vacated rights-of-way before it could potentially occur before they actually dedicate the new right-of-way from the preliminary plat. So they want the option of either paying cash for it, or if they've dedicated enough right-of-way as part of their development, then that's the way that they would go. And the ordinance is written that way, that the petitioner really has the choice of either dedicating new right-of-way equal in square footage or paying the $150,000. So at the conclusion of the hearing, you should vote to adopt, modify, or reject the hearing examiner's recommendation. If you vote to adopt the recommendation and approve the vacation, you should decide on the compensation. We've given you staff's recommendation, and you should consider a motion on to do a first and second reading on the ordinance that's in your packet. And with that, I will turn it over to Council President Lillquist.
Thank you, Alan. Council members? Questions or discussion? April?
Just to clarify, as far as compensation, we can motion to leave it open to the decision of the petitioner to either dedicate around $7,200 square foot or pay $150.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
approximately 72,000 square feet. But the ordinance is written such that before this ordinance will come back to you for third and final, they're going to do one of two things, and it's written that way. They're either going to have paid us $150,000 or they will have dedicated at least that 72,000 square feet in new right-of-way as part of their phased Aurora Court development.
Okay.
I have a question. It has to do with the new transportation plan, the new road layout, presumably where the current right-of-way is doesn't fit where the roads will be going. Are we at any risk that whatever the new road plan will look like won't be to the city's liking, won't be good as circulation pattern, will have dump out on the wrong roads in the wrong way or anything like that?
Are you talking about for the plat or for?
They're going to dedicate new rights of way going forward. And I'm wondering, is there any risk here that because we don't know, it's not in here at all, it's not part of this decision, that those new rights of way will be in a way that suits our transportation plan, doesn't dump traffic in the wrong place or the wrong way? Do we need to put conditions in here on the nature of those new dedications, or just say 72,000 square feet and call it good?
It's that. It's the latter. The plat has been designed so that it dumps out into two already determined locations on the Mahogany, so it won't disrupt the plans for Mahogany and Arctic and Northwest and Pack Highway and the way all those work together. So really the scope is the amount of square footage that gets dedicated. Their plat layout is consistent with our plans for Mahogany, most notably.
But I guess you're saying that regardless of the internal arrangement of the new streets, we already know where they're going to enter and leave the rest of our transportation grid, and that's all good.
That's correct.
Thank you.
The other thing that I would say is that I think this street vacation, I think, was heard simultaneously with the preliminary plat. So the design of that plat has been reviewed and approved by the hearing examiner. So I believe we know more than just where are they dumping out onto city streets. We have a very good idea of, at least for phase one, how that plat is going to be designed as far as lots and rights of way.
Terry?
Yeah, so I would move that we accept the hearing examiner's recommendations and require as compensation minimum of 72,000 square foot for new right-of-way or $150,000.
Second.
Terry, to clarify, do you want to say 72,000 square feet or 71,600 as in the ordinance?
7166 or
Okay.
whatever, yeah.
It's the number in the ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion before us to accept the hearing examiner's finding of facts, conclusions of law, and recommendation, and also in that same motion to accept as compensation either $150,000 payment or the dedication of 71,600 square feet of new right-of-way within the Aurora Court preliminary plat. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes. This evening, I'll bring forward a report of that activity, and we'll seek a motion on the ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the special meeting, the City Council meeting of the whole. We'll take a brief break and come back with our first committee, which is the Justice Committee.